I want to give you the details on a story that friend of the show, Ken Klippenstein, detailed on The Intercept. And it has to go into an instance of almost unthinkable pervasive sexual assault at a military base. Now we know this is not an isolated incident. This is not even just an isolated rash of sexual assault. The military is rife with sexual assault. And it can't be surprising because it has been going on for a very long time and effectively nothing has been done year after year after year as more and more predominantly women have described the instances of sexual harassment and assault that they've suffered from, and nothing is done. So let's take a look at one of the natural outcomes of the military not caring to protect the women that serve in it. Soldiers at Fort Sill in Oklahoma have been suspended from duty pending the outcome of an investigation into a female soldier's allegations that she was sexually assaulted. But it's much worse than just that. The investigation, according to a military official with direct knowledge, is scrutinizing allegations of multiple assaults against the soldier by 22 service members. Video of one incident under investigation involving several drill sergeants was circulating at the base and was obtained by Army investigators. The official said, "I heard the term sex ring thrown around, which is not one you love to hear." Now, we are very lucky to have Ida on the show today. Now, back not that many months ago, Ida was on and we talked about a similar sort of story. Sexual assault in the military was highlighted as a widespread issue after the killing of Specialist Vanessa Guillen, whose remains were discovered about 25 miles from Fort Hood in Central Texas. Officials said she was killed by a fellow soldier who dismembered and burned her body. Specialist Guillen's family said she had told them she was being sexually harassed, but never made a report. We've got some more numbers. But like Fort Hood has a long history of these sorts of incidents, and it's not the only base. Here you have Fort Sill as well, Ida. And how many of these things need to happen before the military actually takes it as serious as it would take some sort of foreign threat to our soldiers?
Well, I mean, when it starts happening to the daughters of generals and people who have power and politicians who have children that are in the military, when I went overseas, because I go to overseas every year to entertain the troops, they have signs all over the bathrooms that say, I was on a Marine base and you see the signs that say, if you've been sexually assaulted, please report it. Indicating that they must have some sort of problem. And there was a young Black woman whose name I can't remember before Vanessa, who was killed. They poured acid on her. They poured acid on her genitals. And these are the children of people of color who are mistreated in America. They send their children off to fight for the country, and then get mistreated in the military. And if they're lucky to come back, they come back to get mistreated here. And I just think that it's disgusting and it is an awful problem, and we need to address it, and we need to really take care of our veterans and our soldiers and the veterans when they come back and our soldiers when they're gone. Americans love, these so-called patriots who hate everybody but love the veterans. They're always talking about how they're pro the soldiers and don't disrespect the soldiers, and we believe in the soldiers. This whole Colin Kaepernick thing blew all out of proportion in defense of the military and the soldier. Yeah. Where are those people now? Why are you not crying and speaking up for these people who are soldiers? They are soldiers in our military who have to put their life on pause. They are misguided into believing that they're gonna come back and get a real free education and be mistreated when we know that's not true. They go over there and they get mistreated over there too. And then, it's just such a problem that they don't want trans people in the military. It's just the ugly truth that we don't wanna admit, because people are exhausted about talking about white supremacy and systemic racism. Mm-hmm. But all of it is a function of that, and it exists in our military and every aspect of our lives, because it was so profitable to have free labor, and people are really still pissed about it because they feel like they are missing out on something that they feel entitled to have, and that sprinkles into everything that we do, including the military. And Black lives and brown lives matter, even when they're gone over there, and women's lives matter. And so, when we talk about this stuff, we don't want to be honest and we don't want to be real, because it's not patriotic to criticize the military, because It's not patriotic to criticize law enforcement and the police, and it's not patriotic to criticize the government so long as they're fulfilling the deeds that benefit you. But when they don't benefit marginalized people, then you're not being patriotic. And this is an ugly problem, and we've heard about it, not just with women, but people who are LGBTQIA+ also being sexually assaulted and mistreated and hazed. And we need to address this problem. It's toxic. It's very toxic. And how are you going to be well enough to go fight for this country when you are fighting your own country people in the military? How where's your mind? Imagine having to sleep in terror. I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but it's just imagine. I've gone to the barracks, I've gone to the bases. My friends have gone to the Middle East where people are sleeping in tents. We've gone to these places. So imagine having to deal with all of those things in addition to being afraid that you are gonna be sexually assaulted by your fellow soldiers on top of all of that.
And that if you report it, which look, the signs you said, I'm glad that those are up, but I don't know. When you report them, what happens? Yeah. The Air Force, the Officer Academy has had a long problem. A lot of it probably has to do with the fact that some of the people who are accused they're the kids of powerful people. They're well connected. Okay, yep. So now you want the reports, but are you gonna actually do anything? Are you gonna take people out of the military? Are you gonna show that you care about these soldiers who have been abused? All too often, not the case. By the way, Blue Knight says in the super chat, I think the servicewoman who Ida was referring to was Lavina Johnson. I did a project on her in college.
Yes, thank you for saying her name. I meant no disrespect by it. I just forgot it and I just got so upset, but thank you for saying her name because her name was Lavina Johnson. That is exactly who I'm talking about.
And Beth, one of the members on YouTube, said that she was, I believe that she said that she was assaulted in the Navy back in 1981. And so now the numbers of reports are going up, which is good. That shows that at least women feel like they can report it. And there's lots of reasons in the past not to, because you could be ostracized, you could be the target of more harassment or more assault, especially if the higher ups don't care, as all too traditionally they haven't. But I also agree with you, Ida, like this should be a slam dunk for conservatives. Make it your campaign. We need to protect our soldiers. We're gonna root this out. Hell, we're gonna throw billions of extra dollars into the military to do it, to pretend that they care about the soldiers, but they don't. They don't want trans people to serve, even though they're people serving. They wanna be in the military. Tucker Carlson does a whole segment about how ridiculous women in maternity flight suits look. They're pregnant women who want to serve and defend their country. I would understand if they wanted to stop when they're pregnant, if they didn't want to serve anymore, but they do. Tucker Carlson's not serving, certainly not while pregnant, but no, it's all so fake. It's fake. They love to pretend that they have these stances, but when tested, they don't. Just like the QAnon people love to pretend that they take this plight of elite people raping kids so seriously. Oh, Matt Gaetz, oh no, I'm not concerned about that. It's probably all made up, it's all the deep state. They don't care about any of this in particular. It's all just vague, hypothetical. In theory, I have values, but don't ever actually test them. And anyway, hopefully there's justice for this individual in Fort Sill. And not just this individual, because I have a feeling that if 22 different people are assaulting one soldier in Fort Sill, that's not the only person who's being assaulted. So hopefully they'll look into it and find out. But the whole thing is just disgusting. And it's taking way, way, way too long for the military to pretend that they actually care about it.
I went to a military base in Asia, what I will not name. And I was the only woman there, and it was an audience filled with men. And my fellow male comedians were like, they banded around me because they said they could feel the creepy energy. They would even, when I got heckled, they would defend me because they were like, ill. So, and it's to say, it's just a culture that feeds toxic masculinity. And people get upset when we say these words and these terms, but that's what it is. Because if you have a problem with a woman who's pregnant in a flight suit and you don't take into consideration that women can be pilots, they can be air traffic controllers, they can be medics, they can be engineers. That's what you chose to show when a lot of people who go over to in the military are not just there for their brawn, but a lot of people who are there for their brains, because they provide the intelligence that the military needs for not just combat, but just for military life. And just that was what you chose to show. You don't even know where those women were being transported to. I don't think they were probably going into active combat. And if they chose to do that, that's their choice. But it's just that the switching of the narrative, as if everybody who's in the military is just those soldiers are just these dumb people that go over there just to fight, when we know that there's a whole structure of military that in the military that mirrors that of a corporate structure in America or a governmental structure, and that there are so many branches and so many different angles of how you provide service in the military. To just single that out is just proof that they're always just showing, it's just propaganda constant to feed toxic masculinity, when there are a lot of people in the military who are men who would not survive active combat, and there are women who would kick their asses. And I'm so tired of them talking about women in that way, because it's just, you wouldn't even survive child labor, let alone combat. So how dare you talk about a pregnant woman? Do you even know what she's about to do? It's just so, man, they convinced me with I'm so tired of these people. Tucker Carlson and his dinner parties that he was bragging about at Politicon. Go sit down somewhere. Put a muzzle on that dude already, please.
No, I need to hear about how to become a true alpha male from Tucker Carlson. Anyway, one last super chat from Kai B, who says, Drag Dragon here. My relative is in the Navy, and on top of being screwed out of money by delayed checks, hurdles thrown her way preventing access to education, she also has to deal with not getting mental health care after being sexually assaulted. Yeah, like, do we have a problem in the military? Well, I don't know. We did one story on it, and a lot of people in the audience have either themselves or know someone who's been sexually assaulted in the military. So seems like a problem.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.